Good evening and welcome to what is a minor birthday for Crimewatch UK. It's our 75th edition. Since we first came on the air in 1984, viewers' calls have not only helped police with thousands of inquiries, but have led directly to almost 300 arrests, or 297 to be precise. 22 of those arrests were for murder, and almost all of them, of course, have been on crimes where detectives had more or less exhausted all other avenues of investigation.
Crimewatch began as a straightforward public service programme, run of just 3. It's grown into such an institution that next year we'll be launching a new additional weekly series aimed at exploring crime, crime prevention and policing in a new way and in a new format.
Crimewatch will go on each month, of course, asking you directly for your help. Tonight's 3 reconstructions involve a shooting and the hijack of a Securicor van as 4 robbers were foiled by a security device. A strange man who was loitering in the town of Hove in Sussex shortly before the apparently indiscriminate murder of a woman at her home nearby. And 2 youths seen running from a murder scene in Lincoln. Why should anyone want to kill an elderly man whose life revolved mainly around watching television? And we'll be looking at important new evidence which has come to light in the investigation into the murder of Penny Bell, a case we featured in our September programme.
Armed robberies are terrifying ordeals and tend to attract maximum police attention. There's always worry about showing pictures of these hold-ups because it might look as though the crime is easy to commit. In fact, though, there's a growing array of increasingly sophisticated countermeasures, and our next case shows one of them in operation. This time the 4 men got away, but only just and empty-handed, having shot at a police officer. The attempted robbery began at the South Mimms service station at the junction of the M25 and the A1M between Barnet and Potters Bar in Hertfordshire. It was defeated by a radio beacon which enables security staff to keep an eagle eye on their vehicles and intervene if things go wrong. Were you at South Mimms service station on Wednesday the 30th of October at around 8 o'clock in the morning? If so, you might have noticed rather strange-looking men loitering around the cash points. You'd remember them if you were there. They were obviously disguised. Or you might have seen 2 other men in this red Ford Orion.
Be careful, do as you're told, no one's going to get hurt.
What's happening? What's going on? Look, we're not messing up. This can blow a hole in your van. And you get back over there. You walk not too fast, and you tell your mate to open it up. We've got an alarm.
Come on, get in, get in! I'll drive!
You're coming with us. Police, please.
Right, open the door.
In! Go! Yes, this is Securicor. We've got an armed attack now.
South Mimms service station.
It's the South Mimms service station on the M25.
As they left, their picture was recorded. It's 8:33. The camera's clock hadn't yet been put back an hour for winter.
He's now going down the A1081, the St Albans Road. He's doing 55 miles an hour.
MP from Sierra Alpha 82, we have the Securicor van in sight. Travelling north along St Albans Road, just past in the Green Dragon Public House now. We're having to turn around to go in pursuit.
We're making our way from
MP from Sierra Alpha 82, we're now behind the Securicorps van. We're travelling towards Barnet. ETA at Barnet, approximately 2 minutes. MP from Sierra Alpha 82, we're now approaching Barnet. The Securicorps van's about 50 yards in front of us, doing about 40 miles an hour.
Right, he's just coming up to the junction of...
Looks like Austin Road.
The vehicle's braking, it's now turning left to the rear of Christchurch and Albans Road. Hang back a bit, hang back a bit. You're out of the landing position at the rear of Christchurch. Yeah, he's armed. Yeah, Sierra Alpha, it's a Mole IC1. It's double-barreled side-by-side shotgun, now towards Sunset View.
Get bloody down! Don't you say a bloody word!
A few streets away, the other guard was dumped in the car park of Barnet Rugby Club on Bing Road. They not only abandoned the guard, but also deserted their accomplices in Christchurch Yard. Within 4 minutes, armed police arrived with more units racing to the area, but the robbers had already fled, empty-handed. Hearing police sirens, the other two abandoned their Orion back in Bing Road, only 200 yards from where they'd left the guard.
Come on then, let's get you out of here. Right, there we go. Come on, quickly inside. There's a good boy. Ooh, quickly. Get in the house because it's wet. Wait for me. Okay, let's get this off you. There we go. Stay down, I'll get that. What's going on? Get out! Get
Just be quiet. Hello, you get the kids and get the keys. You're going to take me for a drive.
We're not going anywhere with you. Now look, just get out. I don't know what's going on, but just get out. Please get out.
Listen, I got a gun. Come on, we go for a drive.
Right, look, okay, I'll take you. Please put him down. I'll get the keys. I'll get the car. Just leave him alone. I'll come outside. What's he doing? What's happening? Help me!
He was just staring at me, like obviously something had gone wrong, and he was really panicking because I was screaming and shouting and obviously didn't realise what I was going to do. I didn't know myself.
He's got anyone in the car! No!
The Volvo was parked half a mile away near Barnet General. Where did he go after that? The man's described as around 40, 5'8", stocky build with a round face and dark hair and vivid blue eyes. Someone watching knows who he is and who his accomplices are. And obviously what the police need is a tip-off, a gang prepared to threaten a woman and her child, to shoot at a police officer. Bob Berger, you actually still need witnesses at the scene, of course. You also need to find out more about these. These were abandoned in the Orion, and we're wearing these examination gloves because they still need more forensic examination. How can viewers help with this? They look like a fairly ordinary bunch of tools.
Well, these were actually found in the back of the Orion, together with this green bag. These obviously were used or intended to be used by the robbers to effect entry to the security vehicle. What I'm appealing for tonight, does anybody know how these tools were put together and whether they've been taken from a garage or left behind somewhere else?
Or whether they knew somebody who had tools like this in a bag like that who now doesn't have tools in a bag like that. This raincoat was also abandoned, a fawn raincoat with a distinctive Burberry lining in it. Now, more to the point was this. Now, tell us about this ticket.
Yes, that's a blue laundry ticket found in one of the pockets. One side it has a handwritten numbers of 564, and on the other side of it, it has the numbers 5890. We're obviously appealing tonight for anybody who's involved in the laundry trade who might know those markings.
The Orion was stolen in Regent's Park back in the middle of June, wasn't it? June the 18th or so.
That is correct.
So for 4 months that car was with somebody, was somewhere. Did you see it? And did you make up those plates? F2250VS. If so, please call us. A very reckless gang, as I was saying.
These are very, very dangerous individuals. We're appealing today to the public for assistance in discovering their identities. They're prepared to shoot at the police, they're prepared to kidnap, and the most disturbing fact was they left 28 rounds of ammunition dumped in the street. These are very, very dangerous people, and I appeal for people to come forward now to identify them.
If you think you do recognise any of the items we've found, showed you here, found from the Orion, or know the identity of the man in the artist's impression, or anything else about this crime, please call us. Here's the number, 081 811 8181. Or you can call the Metropolitan Police Flying Squad, 071 230 2301. That's 071 230 2301.
In September, we appealed for your help on the baffling murder of Penny Bell from Denham in Buckinghamshire. Penny apparently had a happy family life and a successful career in business, but late on the morning of Thursday the 6th of June, Penny was found dead in her blue Jaguar car in the car park of the Gurnell swimming pool in Greenford in Middlesex. Although quite a few people rang the programme offering help, still the police found themselves no further forward in the investigation. But tonight we do have some important new evidence. A Crimewatch viewer who, for reasons of his own, has only now decided to come forward, saw something on the morning of Penny's death which could be of vital importance. You might remember Penny had left her house at 9:45 that morning, saying she had an appointment to keep. Then at around 10:30, a witness saw Penny's car being driven erratically in Greenford Road. A lorry driver travelling behind Penny noticed there was a man in the passenger seat who kept correcting her steering. The man was wearing a gold chain on his wrist. Now, Brian Edwards, you've talked to this new witness at some length. What is the evidence that this witness has given you now?
Well, he was a passenger in a car travelling behind Penny's down the Greenford Road that morning, and they turned into the Ruislip Road East towards Gurnell Grove. Now, at that point, Penny was driving extremely slowly, and a queue of traffic had built up behind her, and a number of motorists hooted as they passed her. As our driver pulled alongside Penny's car just by the car park, Penny turned to the witness and mouthed, "Help me." Now, at that point, the witness saw clearly the man sitting in the front passenger seat of Penny's car and has been able to give us a good description.
And how did he describe him? What did he look like?
Aged 30 to 35, medium build, dark hair, swept back, with a mole on his cheek, wearing a ring on his right ring finger.
Now, who in particular do you think is going to recognise this description perhaps tonight?
We think that he may either live or work in the Greenford area, and so particularly anybody there. Also, it's likely that he was known to Penny, so any of her acquaintances may know this man.
Now, presumably some of the motorists who overtook her on that morning will remember the incident now. Do you need them to come forward?
Yes, if only just to confirm this incident. That would take us a great deal further, yes.
Right. If you were in Greenford on the morning of Thursday the 6th of June and saw Penny in her blue Jaguar driving erratically, or one of those motorists who hooted perhaps, then please do give us a ring. The studio number here, you know, or there's the incident room which you can ring direct, and that number's Ruislip 254 833. That's 0895, the code for Ruislip 254 833.
There's also a dramatic development in another inquiry we featured in a Crimewatch reconstruction, the murder of Julie Dart. You may remember Julie was abducted from the streets of Leeds back in July. Before she died, she wrote a desperate letter seeking help. Then her killer sent his own letters to the police, and we showed one of his notes on which the indentations of a previous message were discovered. Mavis will not be in Tuesday, Phil. Police have since received another letter. Now, can you place the writing? If you're called Mavis, or if you know a Mavis who knows someone called Phil, whose handwriting this could be, you might help detect a killer. Now, of course, the writing may be disguised, but there'll always be some familiar features. So, Mavis, wherever you are, if this message simply might have been addressed at you, even conceivably, please call us straight away. It will be very easy to eliminate the Phil you know if he's simply not involved. Please do call 081 811 8181.
Well, now standing by to open this month's file of incident desk cases, here are Superintendent David Hatcher and Detective Constable Jackie Hames.
First, an extraordinary case which would have ended in tragedy if it hadn't have been for the courage and endurance of the victim. On Friday, 18th of October, Susan Johnson and her 3-year-old son were waiting in Seacroft Centre car park in Leeds for Susan's mother to return from shopping. Then a man jumped into Susan's car and, brandishing a flick knife, ordered her to drive off. He forced her to drive south down the M1 and throughout the journey repeatedly punched Susan and threatened her little boy. Her dog later died from the sick kicks he aimed at it. Susan's ordeal lasted 5 hours and finally ended here in Grafton Way in Milton Keynes, when after stealing her money and jewellery, the man ran off. Perhaps you recognise one of these rings or the gold chain bracelet. The attacker is in his late 30s, slim with fair, mousy, short hair. He was carrying a white plastic bag, smoked roll-ups and constantly used the word gutted. He wore a brown leather jacket with black trousers and was wearing a shirt similar to this. This man is very dangerous and must be stopped. If you know who he is, we need to hear from you.
Next, if you recognise a voice, you might help to catch 2 armed robbers who we think have committed offences in Berkshire and Suffolk. The latest was here at the Town and Country Building Society Stowmarket on Thursday, October the 31st. These 2 men came in, demanded money, and one of them threatened the cashiers with a gun.
I want all your money, girls, all of it. All the stuff from the iron. Now, I'll put it in the bag. Come on, just give me the money. Quickly now, quickly. Nobody gets hurt. Customers come in, they'll get hurt. Be quicker than that, good. And more, and more. And your spare stuff. We know you've got a spare.
The man doing all the talking is aged 35 to 40, has a pock-marked face and pointed nose. His accomplice is in his late 20s and wore a white baggy cagoule with a dark blue shield-shaped badge on the right sleeve. We think that these 2 have committed at least 3 offences like this. On each occasion, they handed a demand note to cashiers, and this time, the first man got quite annoyed when the cashier refused to return the note. So listen again, and if you think you know who he is, please call us.
Give me a note, give me the note. Give me the note. Give it to me. Give it to me now.
If you can recognise some unusual artwork, you may help to find a sex attacker who turned one woman's evening stroll into the worst experience of her life. This is Reddish Vale in Stockport near Manchester. At about 6 p.m. on Thursday, September the 5th, a woman crossed the fields with her dog. As she headed towards the path, a fat man approached and tried to talk to her. She ignored him, but a few minutes later he grabbed her from behind and forced her to the ground. Holding her there for at least 10 minutes, he indecently assaulted her before running away. He's so overweight, his size must betray him. Someone must recognise this description. He was 20 stone, yet fairly short, only 5'6". He had dark hair and was wearing a very tight navy blue T-shirt and tracksuit bottoms. Although the victim was too upset to recall details about his face, she does remember these unusual tattoos. On both arms, the attacker had 4 or 5 vertical blue lines in an elongated S shape. She thought they saw the pink letters MYPA, or it could have been the name Myra on his left arm. If you think you can help with this or any of our other incident desk cases, please ring them now.
And here's the number, 081 811 8181. 081 811 8181.
The crimes which hit the headlines for obvious reasons are the ones that are the rarest and the most shocking. Crimes against the elderly are a case in point. Attacks on elderly people are extremely rare, particularly in their own homes, although the publicity they receive can lead us to think they are more commonplace than they really are. But it's even more rare for an old person to be attacked without any conceivable motive. But this seems to be what has happened in our next case. Fred Maltby was in his 70s. A quiet man, he'd always lived on his own near Lincoln, farming his small plot of land. 9 weeks ago, sometime during the evening of Tuesday, October the 1st, Fred was murdered in his living room. Our film begins near the city of Lincoln. For the past 40 years, Fred Maltby had lived here in this farm cottage in Brant Road on the outskirts of the city. Fred seldom went far afield, and when he did go out, he'd use the back door, leaving it unlocked behind him. An early riser, he was always one of the first customers at the village store across the road.
Morning, Linda.
Morning, Fred. Come for your bread?
That's right. Is it fresh in?
It is.
I'll take the usual pie for you.
Fred was quiet, kept himself to himself. He was always cheery, do anything for anybody if they asked him. He used to come in first thing in the morning, pick up his bread and milk, and probably come over later on in the day. He never was the sort of man to do things all at once. He'd come over for little bits and pieces.
Fred used some of his 15-acre smallholding to grow a variety of vegetables, which he sold from the shed next to the house. He rented the rest to local people for grazing horses and cattle. During the property boom of 1988, some developers offered Fred £500,000 for his land. That offer was quickly withdrawn once the boom became a slump, but it is possible that someone thought Fred was better off than he really was. One of Fred's oldest friends was Bill Lockley, who runs the garage next door. Fred himself was a skilled mechanic, and he'd often drop by for long chats.
Well, I think I've known Fred for about 25 years. It's getting on a bit now, isn't it?
I suppose it is, yeah.
He used to come very often to the garage. We used to talk about things, and he used to come for spares and repairs to his cars, tractor parts. I shouldn't have thought he had a lot of money myself, because he never spent a lot of money. I don't know, he lived in a poor way, I suppose.
As you say, you can't keep welding them up.
No, you can't. No, that's true.
It's Tuesday the 1st of October, the day Fred died. By late afternoon, the weather was becoming blustery. Fred made his usual call at the local shop for his evening paper. 2 hours later, when Irena Grint and a friend brought their horses into the field, Fred was his usual cheery self.
Hello, ladies.
Hi there.
Winter's coming early with a vengeance.
I always found Fred very chatty, actually. He knew all the people around here. He'd seen children grow up. He knew 3 generations around here.
See you in the morning.
You expect so?
Fred probably finished his work outside shortly before 7. Normally, he'd spend the evening at home watching the television, although he would often go out for a short stroll. Just after 9 o'clock that night, a local resident saw Fred walking along Brant Road towards his front gate. That was the last time any of his friends or neighbours saw him alive. Half an hour after that, Caroline Banks had just called in at the Boundary Garage to buy some chocolate. As she crossed the road, she saw 2 men hanging around by the hedge near Fred's gate. At about the same time, Mick Cox was turning into Brant Road.
I was travelling towards the new housing estate up the Brant Road towards Wallington, and on my right-hand side 2 lads appeared.
As Mick braked, a white Ford Capri had to swerve to avoid driving into him. Another witness remembers 2 men running down the path by the local doctor's surgery, heading towards a housing estate off Larne Road. It wasn't until the middle of the next day that a friend calling round to buy some vegetables realised something was seriously wrong.
Take it out of the box. I'm sure I didn't.
Are you there, Fred?
Someone have picked it up?
Stolen the opal.
Well, it's a possibility.
Fred?
Fred, are you there? Fred? Fred, are you there?
Beverly. It's not. Well, it certainly didn't make its own way out of here. Had to be Pam. Now, you're going to have to go and front her about it. And as soon as possible.
Well, Stuart Clifton, how had Fred been killed and why?
Well, it was a particularly horrific killing. Mr. Maltby had been killed with an axe, and despite extensive searches of the local area and the River Witham, which runs nearby, we failed to find it. The motive for the murder is a little unclear. The only thing that seems to be missing from Mr. Maltby's home is a wallet, similar to this one, which would contain only a small amount of money, perhaps no more than £20, and it seems particularly horrific to kill a man of Mr. Maltby's stature for such a paltry sum of money.
He certainly didn't seem to have any enemies, did he?
No, he didn't.
What are the descriptions you have of the two men who were seen running away by several witnesses?
Well, there are two witnesses that have compiled, first an e-fit that you can see, and secondly the artist's impression. I should emphasise that both are of the same man. He's described as about 18 to 25, about 5 feet 10 in height. He has light brown or mousy-coloured hair, cut short on top and perhaps long in the collar. You'll see that one witness describes him with an earring and the other doesn't.
You don't have such a good description of the second man?
No, the second man, his description is very meagre, really. The witnesses only saw quite a fleeting glimpse of him. He again is in the same 18 to 25 age group, has dark hair and is of similar build.
And you are satisfied, are you, that these two witnesses both saw the same two men?
Yes, indeed. In fact, the second witness saw the two men running across the car park of the doctor's surgery opposite at around the same time, and they were running with some purpose.
Now, what would the driver of that white Capri have seen?
Well, he may have seen the two men. He certainly may be able to help us pinpoint the time, because Mr. Cox is unclear about exactly what time it was that he saw the men. Consequently, we may be able to piece together the story a little better with the second witness.
Right, so we do need you, if you were the driver of that white Capri, to give us a ring. If you can help at all, I'll give you the numbers to call. If you can help Mr. Clifton and his colleagues trace those two men or shed any light at all on why Mr. Maltby was killed, you can speak to us now here in the studio on 081 811 8181 or contact the Lincolnshire Police Headquarters direct on 0522 532222. That's 0522, the code for Lincoln, 532222.
A lot of calls are coming in on the attack at the South Mims service station. Somebody's rung in saying they had a video camera there. The police would like them to call back with further information on that. There is, I have to say, no obvious pattern to the success of Crimewatch reconstructions. It really is impossible to predict which ones will produce results. Last month, despite an audience of nearly 11 million, we took an unusually small number of calls. On the death of Tom Griffiths in Cricklewood, North London, a man who rang sounding agitated and saying he was responsible hasn't so far called again. Viewers did, though, come up with 5 names which are now under investigation. The disappearance of Andrew Elphick from Guildford in Surrey prompted 70 calls, several about drugs. Andrew had joked or boasted about a drugs deal. His fate, though, is still a mystery. There was a good response on the murder of Vera Anderson, 250 calls. Several suspects were suggested, and one viewer remembered seeing Vera's car 3 weeks before she died, parked bumper to bumper with what he thinks was an X-registered, probably silver, Ford Cortina. Vera was with a man. It's imperative that this man is traced, if only for urgent elimination. If it could be you, or if you think you know who it is, please call us now.
Photocall, as always, produced results last month. One anonymous viewer led police to a house in Middlesbrough where a man was arrested and has since been charged with 5 offences related to theft and deception. Several other viewers rang to say they thought they'd been victims of connected crimes. And police now believe they know who this man is, but not where he is, so please do call if you've seen him in the last few days. Once again now, here are Superintendent David Hatcher and Detective Constable Jackie Hames to take us through this month's Gallery of Faces.
Colleagues in Newcastle urgently need to speak to Alan Swindon about a fatal stabbing outside a local nightclub. At about 2:15 in the early hours of Sunday the 10th of November, Paul Furness left Walker's nightclub in Newcastle city centre. He had spent the evening celebrating with a friend who was going to Australia. There were about 200 to 300 people leaving the club when a fight started. Paul was stabbed in the chest and died within minutes. We believe Alan Swindon may be able to help with this investigation, and we urge him to contact us or his mother. We believe Alan has probably now left the North East and could be anywhere in the country. So if you know him or know where he is, please call us.
Next, you recognise these two, captured here on video on the 9th of November at a jeweller's in Southall, West London. They're trying to buy Krugerrands worth £16,000 with a cheque drawn on a stolen Building Society book. It had been taken from a house in High Wycombe 3 days earlier. Over the next couple of days, we think this man tried to cash 3 more cheques, totalling almost £4,500 in Slough and Reading. He called himself Ian. He's in his early 20s and about 6 foot. The other man is also in his early 20s, but slightly smaller, about 5'9". Perhaps you recognise him from his jacket. If you do know who they are, please give us a call tonight.
Colleagues in Northants are keen to trace this man, Brian Vivian Mullally. In April this year, he set up a company in Strode Road, Wellingborough. A company called Telecel advertised holiday apartments in Spain, which sadly turned out to be fictitious. Then on the weekend of the 2nd of June, Telecel cheques were used to buy 2 BMW cars. Unfortunately, the bank account was more or less empty, and it was later discovered that the cars had been quickly sold on for cash. These deceptions total some £27,000. You may also know Brian Mullally as Graham Bailey, Brian Reddings or Brian Denacon. He's in his mid-40s and his hair is probably a little greyer than it looks here. He's well-spoken and smartly dressed. He has a tattoo of a dagger on his left arm and the name Gina on his right forearm. We know he has a good knowledge of the Croydon area of London, but he could be anywhere in the country now, so if you think you know where he is, do please ring.
And maybe you recognise this man. He's been busy visiting various branches of the Leeds Permanent Building Society and threatens to harm staff and customers if money isn't handed over. He was first caught on film on the 3rd of August in Huddersfield, where he demanded cash. 2 months later, on the 1st of October, he did the same thing, this time in Sheffield. At the end of October, he turned up many miles away in Slough and this time left his demand note behind. We think he's a northerner, and despite his disguise, someone should recognise the photograph. So if you know him or any of our other photocall faces, please call us now.
And this is the number 081 811 8181. 081 811 8181.
At the beginning of October, in a quiet residential street in a seaside town, this woman, Marion Rilke, was attacked and murdered in the hallway of her own home. Detectives have no motive and, frankly, not much evidence. But maybe you can begin to resolve the mystery if you can help identify a young man who was seen around the neighbourhood that day. Our reconstruction begins as summer is drawing to an end in Sussex. It's party conference week in Brighton, just down the coast from Hove, so both towns still have a lot of visitors. But by the beginning of October, the tourist season's over. Nonetheless, as the sun comes up on Tuesday the 1st, it promises to be a dry, fine day. Marion Rilke set off with her daughter, as usual, at about 8:45. Her husband, a merchant seaman, had just returned to his ship, so life revolved around her child.
Now listen, don't forget we've got that optician's appointment this afternoon. So no dawdling on after school. I'll be here on the dot to pick you up, all right?
All right, Mummy, bye.
At 9, as every weekday morning, Marion travelled into town, where she worked mornings only, as a secretary. Then, as every Tuesday, she met her sister-in-law for lunch.
Oh, I need a cigarette. Right then, what shall we have?
It's just like the usual. Yeah?
The usual.
You and your usual. Well, what about a cup of tea or sausage sandwich?
At about the same time, close to Marion's house in Hove, several people noticed someone acting in a way they thought suspicious. For a time, he was seen hanging around the bus stop on Portland Road. At 1:45, Marion and Wendy finished lunch.
You're not going to be late, are you? No.
15 minutes later, a man was seen at the top of Marion's Road. The witness wondered if he was simply waiting for someone or was about to rob a bank. 10 minutes after that, a woman who lived 100 yards away from Marion arrived home from work.
you tell me where Harmsworth Road is?
No, I've never heard of it. I'm sorry, I can't help you.
Well, is there anyone in there who can?
No, we can't. Why don't you go down to the local shop? Someone there will give you directions.
Well, I've already been in one and they didn't know.
There's plenty of shops down there. Why don't you ask someone else?
Well, haven't you got a map or something? I mean, could I come in and have a look at it? You must have a map in there.
I'm sorry, we don't have a map. Hello, Ruby. It's Pam from next door. I've got this chap at the door. He keeps ringing the bell. I can't get rid of him. I wondered if Chaz was in.
Hey, you. What exactly do you want?
I wanted to speak to somebody about Social Security.
Well, we don't know anything about that sort of thing, and neither does she, so clear off. And if you want to have a word about that, try along at the Marmion Centre. They might be able to help you.
Oh, you mean the YMCA?
Yes, exactly. That'd be better than bothering her about it. He would be about 23 to 25 years of age and about 5'11" in height. His hair was a bit lanky and a mousy sort of colour, not too dark, shoulder length. He had a casual jacket, which was with a spray coming across each shoulder of white flowers, and he had a T-shirt in white.
15 minutes later, around 2:30, it's thought Marion arrived home. When Marion didn't arrive to collect her daughter from school, a teacher alerted a next-door neighbour. Marion's body was discovered in the hallway of her house. Tim O'Connor, how can viewers help?
Well, certainly what we're very interested in is the man in the reconstruction. If that man is watching, then he could certainly save us a lot of time in trying to find him, which would obviously be better for him. Please come forward and help us if you're not involved in the murder. If that man is involved in the murder, and if anybody else does recognise him, then please ring us. We must identify that man.
Distinctive face, the actor looked very much like him, though the hair might be a bit lankier, we're not sure.
Yes.
The clothing, very distinctive.
Very distinctive jacket. It's a bluish, possibly beigeish type jacket. It's got very distinctive embroidery on, little alpine flowers. Very, very distinctive. The man had a black leather belt with silver studs. He had black pointed shoes with silver studs on the outside, and he had two large rings, metallic type rings, on his finger.
Now, one of those rings, or something, left a mark on Marion's body.
Yes, there was a bruise that came up on the body, which did occur at the time that she was murdered. Now, it's an unusual shape. It's in a kind of a curved 7. We're anxious, could it be a ring? Could it be the butt end of a knife? If you recognise that bruise, please help us.
You're putting up a reward. It's very unusual for the police to put up a reward on a case. Why on this one?
Yes, it is. You're right. It is very unusual. It shows the emphasis that we in Sussex are putting on catching this individual. She was a totally innocent lady, a housewife. It was a motiveless crime, and we do need to catch him. And hopefully somebody will come forward.
Well, it's a £5,000 reward, but I hope it won't need money to get you to ring in if you can help. Here's the number, 081 811 8181. Several detectives on the case here, of course, or you can call their colleagues at Hove Police Station. That's 0273 778 922. 0273 778 922.
Well, now, as a result of Aladdin's Cave last month, 3 items were found to have come from burglaries in the south of England. The card table, the carriage clock and a sketch of some cats are all about now to be returned to their rightful owners. And a man has now been charged with those burglaries. This month we have an Aladdin's Cave of a rather different kind. With Christmas only 20 days away, there's the usual desperate rush to get the presents bought, but don't let the pressure cloud your judgment. There's a variety of stolen goods to beware of, and here to show us some of them are David Hatcher and Jackie Hames.
Everything under the Christmas tree tonight is quite distinctive, so if you're offered any of these, we'd like to hear from you. 60 bottles of this special Davies vintage champagne were stolen from the Spittoon wine bar in Smithfield, East London, at the beginning of October. Let us know if you see these labels anywhere else. Petit Palatino is another name to watch out for. Last September, £340,000 worth of these and other top-quality cigars were stolen from Heathrow Airport, including these ones specially made for Fidel Castro. A box of 25 is worth £260, so watch out for anybody selling them in your local pub.
Watches always make a classic Christmas gift, but be careful if you're offered one of these. 62 were stolen from Gucci in Sloane Street during the night of the 26th of November. If you see these going cheap and they have this authentic stamp on them, the chances are they're nicked. These women's jackets are unique. £12,000 worth were stolen from the Janika shop in Rugby in late October. It's the only place that sells them. 2 men were seen leaving the shop driving what could have been a blue Ford Sierra. If you're offered these jackets or anything with this label, you can be sure they're stolen.
Every father dreams of the day he can buy the ultimate train set for his son or even daughter. These look particularly tempting, but £13,000 worth was stolen from a shop called the Engine Shed in Leytonstone, London. Some of them are limited editions and have these certificates in their boxes. And these model engines went missing from a factory in Tyne and Wear. The company had recently moved north and all the models stolen had their new address label on the box.
And finally, if you go down to the woods tonight, you might find one of the 4,000 teddy bears which went missing in the summer. The clue to their identity lies in their paw prints, each one embroidered with Harrods 1991. So, if you've been offered any of these stolen items, please call us. And don't forget, if an offer seems too good to be true, it probably is.
Just trying to collate some of the calls that have come in. So many have come in on South Mims. I'm not really sure where to start. Firstly, a witness to the robbery actually saw it taking place, has called. Several people saw that red car, the Orion, parked in North London in those 4 months between its theft from Regent's Park and the robbery. We've got names for the Milton Keynes hijacker put forward, names for the man seen with Penny Bell, and with Julie, on the Julie Dart case, a Mavis has called in who knows a Phil, which has caused considerable interest to the detectives here. Now here's the number to ring if you can help in any further way with any of our cases tonight, 081 811 8181. Our lines of course open until midnight. We'll be back with Crimewatch Update after question time at 11:45.
And if you won't be staying up until then, thank you very much to everybody who's called offering help and information, not only tonight, but during the course of the 7.5 years we've been on the air. You've helped to make life safer for us all.
And don't forget that the sort of shocking crimes we've shown tonight still have the power to shock because they are mercifully rare. So don't have nightmares, do sleep well. Good night.
Good night.